So this piece and the next piece have a relationship, and although he doesn't mention it, he doesn't make a big deal of it in his program notes, Adolphus Hailstort's piece was finished on 9/11 of 2021. The next piece I'm going to play for you was also inspired to some degree by 9/11. And this piece by American composer Daniela Candelari is a really beautiful piece, originally written for bass trombone and piano. What I'm playing here is a tenor trombone, and I can answer some questions about that later on if you'd like. But the piece basically tells the story of a young boy who lost his father in the 9/11 attack. And throughout the piece, he's trying to figure out a lot about who his father was, what his father's story was, what his father's background was. So we're going to play two movements from that piece, and I'll talk about each of them separately. The first movement we're going to play is called Walking Over Bridges Also Makes Me Panicky. And this is the story of a young boy who is searching all over New York for clues about who his father was. And he's just sort of frantically running all over the city trying to find information about his dad. So this is the first movement we'll play for you.
I want to know about the baritone or bass trombone versus.
Yeah, so I'm holding in my hands what's considered to be a tenor trombone. A tenor trombone plays mostly sort of in the tenor and in the bass and a little bit into the alto register. Bass trombone, and some of the music I played tonight was originally written for the bass trombone. The difference is the bass trombone uses a larger bore size, a larger cylinder bore size, a larger mouthpiece, and a much larger bell. It has a similar range of the tenor trombone, but the bass trombone actually sounds better in the low register than the tenor trombone does. And the bass trombone also has this valve that you see right here. A bass trombone has two valves instead of one, which gives it some extended low register capabilities. And that's the difference between the tenor and the bass. So the next movement is one of the most beautiful pieces of music, I think, written for the trombone. The next movement tells the story of the boy, and he finds an old, crumpled up letter that was written by his grandfather to his father. And the letter sort of talks about a lot of the regrets that the grandfather had in his life. So what Daniela Candelari wanted to do was she wanted to give this an antique feeling. She wanted to give it the sound of an old antique phonograph. So for this reason, she's asked the pianist, Liz, to place pieces of paper underneath certain strings of the piano to make it sound very, very old. And she's asked the trombonist to use a cup mute, and the cup mute also sort of helps to imitate the old phonograph sound that you're going to hear. So this is called Why I'm Not Where You Are. Yeah.
Can you tell us, in general, what brought you to music?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up around music. My father was a middle school and high school band director, so I was surrounded by it, and he helped me even pick my instrument when I was going into the 7th grade, and I wanted to play the drums. He very gently steered me away from what he probably thought was going to be a noisy instrument to have in his house, and towards the trombone, which I actually chose the trombone because of the fact that I remember seeing trombonists on the stage in my father's band and how their slides would sort of reflect the stage lighting. To me, that looked really, really cool. So I grew up around music, and my father was a musician, and so I was just surrounded by it.
Tito was already doing it on his own before we put a name on Love Tito's.
He used to give it away as gifts and to events, which of course included charitable events.
The culture that he has started, and it all starts with Tito himself and rolls downhill.
You know what, if we can go and take our company and support all these people that are finding meaning and purpose in their lives by doing nice things for other people that they don't even know, it makes me happy, it makes all my employees happy. Then I look at it like maybe we could make a little ripple in the world,
Most businesses really use organizations to allow them to be known, and we kind of flip-flop that. We're able to use our amazing culture around us to give them support and make people more aware of what they do.
And I think that's the end goal, is to do something that has meaning and purpose.
We're here in this company to make the world a better place, and we like to think we're doing it through Tito's handmade vodka.
So next piece, Romance, by African-American composer William Grant Still. William Grant Still lived from 1895 to 1978 and was one of the most important black composers of his time. And this piece, Romance, was originally written for saxophone and was borrowed, as trombonists often do. We borrow lots of literature from other instruments. And transcribed by the former bass trombonist of the Boston Symphony, Douglas Yo. So this is Douglas Yo's arrangement of William Grant Still's Romance. So this next piece by American composer Eric E. Wazen. Eric E. Wazen lives in New York, teaches at the Juilliard School, and it's one of the most popular composers for a while for brass players in particular. Has written lots of beautiful music. The original version of this particular piece, called Angel of Dreamers, was written for trombone, baritone voice, and was really written with my friend Daniel's voice in mind. And he actually was still writing the piece and putting it together while listening to Daniel and I play the piece for him. So it's been a piece that's been in our repertoire for a while. And the piece pays homage to people that have loved us throughout our lives and cared for us but are no longer with us. So we're going to play two movements of this piece. We were very fortunate. This piece was co-commissioned by myself and the Detroit Chamber Winds and Strings. And we were fortunate to make contact with Eric E. Wazen. And when he asked me what I wanted the piece to be about, we had several conversations, and we decided it would be really great to use text from a living poet. So we introduced ourselves to the Jamaican-American poet by the name of Lorna Goodison, who at the time was on faculty at the University of Michigan where I teach. So Lorna agreed to let us use her words. And we're gonna play two movements of this lovely work. The first movement is called Oh Love, You So Fear the Dark. And this is the song and the story of a parent consoling a child, calming a child who is afraid of the dark. The second movement is called Gotomy. And a gotomy is a fish, a Jamaican term for a particular kind of fish. And this tells the story about a child who feels like a fish out of water and is being, the parent is trying to build confidence into the child, saying, be yourself, be yourself. So we'll start off with Oh Love and go on to Gotomy.
There is nothing to fear. There is nothing to fear. There is nothing to fear. It is dark only as your eyes on my hair, and it is kind love, it leads to light, and it is kind love, it leads to light, to light. If you but knew it, only unarmed will you go through it. Oh love, oh love, oh love. Tide wash me out of the river. Tide wash me out of the river. Sweep me up onto the bank. Sweep me up onto the bank. I was swimming in sink. So with the life currents of the big rivers, 100 rivers of this green island. Now here I am beast, but still breathing. They say I'm the only one who can live so. Outside of the water culture, where fish flourish and grow, fish out of the water, God on me, fish live on the land, God on me, God on me. Amphibian, God on me, my flame itself a prayer, God on me. On the land I breathe uneasy, but still breathe through. Until the tides of mercy pull me back into the flow. God on me, God on me, God on me.
The pieces that you played, several of them, or at least two of them anyway, were you had movements from longer.
Yes,
parts.
correct.
I'm just curious about the scope of all of those two pieces.
Sure, absolutely.
Whether or not what the other movements are like.
Yeah, so the first multi-movement piece that we took 2 movements of has 7 movements, and that's the Daniela Candelari. And it tells many different aspects of this particular story. It talks a little bit about some of the stories that the father told the child as he was growing up. It also has a very tragic last movement, which I deliberately omitted, which is the sort of slow motion depiction of a man falling from one of the Twin Towers. And so that's a very long 7-movement piece. The other multi-movement piece that we took from was the very last piece we played, which has, I believe, 5 movements. And the movements are very, very personal to the poet. They have, a couple of the movements have, there's a movement where she talks about the father, and the movement includes a couple of her father's favorite songs, Jamaica Farewell, and was a big fan of Harry Belafonte, so there are a couple of Harry Belafonte quotes in that song. And then that piece ends with the sound of the Camina drum, which is a Jamaican steel drum. So that's about a 5-movement piece from Eric E. Wazen.
I was struck by, you mentioned in your remarks before the Hailstork that the last piece he had written to you was like all calisthenics.
Yes, yeah.
This had a beautiful melody. And
Right.
I noticed that, I mean, most of what you played today was on the lyrical
Yes, absolutely.
poetic side as opposed to the athletic
Yeah.
side. Was that intentional?
That's my personal preference for the trombone that you're hearing, right? And part of it is the fact that I tell the story sometimes to audiences. I'm a failed singer. I wanted to be a singer. I took voice lessons throughout middle school and high school. I took voice lessons when I was in college, and my last voice teacher gave me the greatest piece of advice, which is stick with the trombone. But I've always had this affinity for the trombone as a vocal instrument, and the singing style of the trombone. And we certainly hear other aspects of the trombone in other settings, in the orchestra, and other forms of chamber music, and even other forms of solo music. But I'm really fond of the lyrical aspect of the instrument. So that's why you heard so much of that today, as you always will when you hear me play.